Go ahead and call the Burleigh County Water Resource District July board meeting to order. Wendy, take roll call, please.
Manager Mager.
Present.
Manager Mitchell.
Here.
Manager Reed.
Here.
Manager Smith.
Here.
Chairman Landenberg.
Here, we have a quorum. We will continue. Moving on to item 2 this morning, approval of last month's meeting minutes. Get a chance to review those, if any changes.
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, got a motion by Manager Smith and a second by Manager Mager to approve the minutes from last month's meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Minutes are approved. Moving on to the approval of the agenda. Any additions to the agenda this morning? For changes? I would like to add under item 8, the drainage permits, complaints, and issues. There's been some activity out at Hogue Island we'd like to discuss this morning as a board and kind of maybe determine some next steps and what our involvement's going to be. So Travis, you'll probably have some updates for us, and maybe Michael as well, and David. We've been talking, so we'll add that under item E, under item 8 there. So anything else this morning?
Move to approve as amended.
Okay.
Second.
Got a motion by Manager Smith and a second by Manager Mitchell to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The agenda is approved as amended. Moving on to item 4 this morning, comments from members of the public for items that are not on the agenda but still associated with the Burleigh County Water Resource District. Not seeing any this morning, so we can move on to McDowell Dam. First item up, supplemental water supply. I don't know, Travis, any updates regarding kind of the last few weeks here as far as the supplemental water supply? Morning, Travis.
Yeah, good morning. Working on moving forward with general plans on that, getting the cost share request in place and submitted and all of that finalized, so then we can get the contract going, getting some of the budgetary things updated, and then working to coordinate with the electrical sub-consultant to begin the design on that. So right now, pulling the pieces together to start rolling into final design on that system. So that's about it for now. Now that we've gotten the kind of the cost share stuff, and obviously all the easements have been wrapped up, and so right now we're just transitioning into final design on that and gonna get that rolling full speed here pretty soon.
Hey, Travis, quick question. That final easement that we were looking, is that get officially recorded now?
You mean, the easement, for the last landowner?
Yep.
Correct, okay. Yeah, because we're also looking at putting together, drawing up an easement that's on the McDowell Dam property. It's owned by the Water Resource District, but having that recorded in case for some reason down the road that property changes hands, that way that is
Right.
actually on the record and recorded for the final treatment pond and outfall structure and that last bit of pipeline that goes across the actual park property. So we have that easement to draw up to, so that's why I just wanted to make sure I was thinking of the same one that you were thinking of. So
But the other one did get recorded?
yes, yep.
Okay, all right. Very good. And then Manager Mager and I were talking before the meeting, just kind of wondering what kind of timeline are we looking at for finalizing the design?
Looking at rolling through the final design here this summer and into this fall, and then getting the plans finalized and advertised for bid sometime this winter, for late winter, early spring bid opening, and then trying to coordinate, get contractors so that they can start getting things in order and rolling into construction in the spring of '27.
Okay, all right, sounds good, thank you. Any questions for Travis on that? Okay, he kind of covered item B as well this morning with the grant submittal. We can move on to item C this morning, the aerator. Mitchell.
Yeah, when I talked to you after Chairman Landerberger after our meeting last month as to who to contact and start bringing into this, my first call was to Paul Bailey from North Dakota Game and Fish, and just wanted to figure out what his role was in this and what they do out there, and mainly it is to stock fish and control the low water drawdown out there. He could see the benefit of the aerators, and he sent me the results from last year, which I have right here, from 7/28/25. And 1 meter, for dissolved oxygen, by the way, and 1 meter down, 14.3 parts per million, which is pretty good. 2 meters was about 8.7. After that, 0.2, 0.1, everything. So it was just, it was bad. So he could really see the, some benefit from that, as far as that goes.
That was end of July, you said?
Yeah, July 28th of last year, when they did it. So, second call or meet up or talk was with Tina and Deb with NDERF, and right away they were starting to ask for product descriptions, serial numbers and stuff, and I said we were nowhere near that phase yet, and then they just said, okay, we'll just put it on the back burner for now, and then revisit it then. They also gave me the name of Nils Eberhard, I believe, is our insurance rep for Burleigh County Water Resource District, and talked to Nils, and that was a really good conversation with him, and came up with the same type of decision, you know, making it closer to the finishing stages of the project when we do, you know, decide to get it done here. I did get the contract from Wayne from Sunflow for the lawyer side of things here, and I sent it to Attorney David Bliss here to look over, and had a good discussion with David regarding that as well, and we also determined that we'll just kind of wait for that to kind of go by if we need to make any adjustments or anything on the fly with that when we get towards the end of it. And Wayne also sent me the dissolved oxygen testing results from last month. And I think I emailed them to everybody, if everybody had a chance to look at them. It was very significant. I mean, it was big. And I said in the email there, you know, like a lot of those testing sites were, you know, a couple hundred feet from the circulators or the aerators there. Mm-hmm. So which is pretty much throughout the whole throughout the whole lake. So that was good news. Then a couple weeks later, I met with David Robinson, the manager of McDowell Dam, and we just kind of went around and went out to the outlet structure of the dam and just wanted to get his opinion on everything because he's there. You know, it's always good to get somebody that's got eyes on everything all the time. So, and that went very good too. I did contact Ixom Water Care for another quote, and that is in pages, I believe, 17 to 23. With Sunflow's proposal on the next few pages after that. The only thing I had with the Ixom quote was they had 5 aerators in the system, and with the numbers that Wayne is showing me with 3 aerators in the system in Harmon Lake, I just felt like that was a lot. So I'm working with a gentleman by the name of Bryce Hill on that. And he did ask to speak next month at our meeting here, if you know, if the board so chooses.
From Ixom?
From Ixom,
Yeah.
yep. And what I'm going to try to do is work with him later on this week and early next week to get do something similar as a quote wise or you know, material wise and stuff for each from each company here. And then, let's see, and hopefully he will. He said he would be more than happy to. And that's really about what I have for now. So I'll open it up for any questions or discussions or anything like that.
Thanks, Manager Michelle. Any questions for Chuck? Chuck, I know one thing we were going to maybe do is reach out and talk to somebody at Harmon Lake too. Were you able to do
I
that?
talked to Jamie for a little bit and everything, and,
Yeah.
and he said everything's been going really good
Yeah.
over there.
And he has a Sunflow system, 3
And
of them.
he's got 3 of them in there, but Harmon Lake is a little bit bigger than McDowell Dam is. I think by 20-some acres, I believe. I think they're in the 70s, and we're like around 50, 56 or something
Yeah.
like that.
Okay.
So, and they were seeing results with that, and I don't know why we wouldn't see results with 2 in there. And if those results were, if we didn't see what we were expecting or wanted to, I think we could always add another one.
Right.
If we need to.
Yeah.
So.
Because Sunflow was quoting us with 2 systems.
Yep.
2 of those.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do we know at what dissolved oxygen level we wouldn't have blue-green algae? Is there a correlation there?
Well, I think with that, Roger, I think what happens is now that with Harmon Lake now too, even over the winter time, that dissolved oxygen level has stayed stable farther down throughout
Sure.
in the water.
They don't get wear
So
and
then,
tear.
yeah, so then all of a sudden, you start up next spring, you're getting a head start on everything in a sense. And, and taking care of it. And I thought initially that maybe this blue-green algae out of McDowell was centered in certain areas and spots, but talking to Dave Robinson, he said it's very random out there. Like last year, it was out at the dock, right around the dock, the boat dock or something. So we'll see. And I just think once stuff gets rolling, beginning of next year, spring of next year, I think it'll just keep continuing to be the progress will just continue to grow. So.
Chuck, one thing we talked about too was maybe with Ixom, they have a unique program that they might be able to
Oh, yeah.
update us with next month, but.
Yeah,
maybe
they're,
it could be to
they're
share that with
just,
the board.
talking to Bryce, they're just in the very, very infancy stages of this. They do have like a rental/lease program where we could rent that equipment or lease that equipment, and basically absolves us from a lot of responsibility regarding it. It would be on them for, placing it in there, taking care of it and everything like that. Removing it however long the contracts would be designed for. And when I'll let Bryce know this afternoon that he'll be able to present next month, and then he'll be able to expand on that, I think, a little bit more.
Yeah.
So, because right now he said it's just something we're just looking into and possibilities, which would be a really good be a good thing
Yeah.
out there
Yeah.
in a lot of different areas, even the legal side of stuff, responsibility, liability, through NDERF, everything like that. So
We talked about we could maybe look at, potentially like a April through September, October kind of a time frame, and just maybe lease these for 6 months a year.
Yep.
And they come back and take them out and maintenance them
Yep.
and put them back in the next year.
yeah, and I know that Wayne, I think what he did with Harmon Lake this year too, or last year too, was had them pay half up front, and then 365 days later make the rest of the full payment of it, which is a pretty good deal too in the long run. So, yeah, we got options.
Yeah.
It
Absolutely.
looks like this Ixom one is a solar power too, or is that what most
Yeah,
of them
yeah,
are now?
it's solar powered. It's not as tall, I don't think.
Okay,
About 12 feet in diameter, 3 floats around it, and then the solar panel. And I do believe it does have like a beacon or a blinking light on top of it. And Bryce says there's really no way that anybody can really, unless they physically do damage to it, that they can get, any harm from it. So, yep.
In Harmon Lake, they run it 12 months. They run it all.
No, they pull them out.
Oh, they do
No,
pull
they
it in.
pull them. They pull them into the bays.
Pull 'em into the
Yep,
bay.
into the bay. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
They're
But these
still
are ones-
operating then, or just?
Nope, they're just
stationed?
sitting there. They just shut them off, Roger.
All right.
And with ours too, then, and just like Harmon Lake now, they're running 24/7 right now.
Right.
So, and with Harmon Lake, with the Sunflow ones right now, they're about 850 gallons a minute, and I've heard other numbers with the Ixon ones that are, I still have to try to figure it out and prove it, but 850 gallons a minute, two systems going, that's almost 1 million gallons a day that it's turning over. So that's not terrible.
Yeah.
I just find it an interesting one. Ixom recommends 5 locations, whereas Sunflow has
Yeah,
2.
that was their initial one.
I wonder, if there's any rationale or reasoning that was shared because what
I
that
think-
discrepancy is, or?
Dennis, I think that came from when Bryce sent me a questionnaire in regards to how big the lake is, what's the deepest depth, what's the average depth, how many gallons does it hold, and all that stuff. And I think they based it off on those numbers, and then just hit enter probably, and it popped these out. So.
Something we can visit with them next month.
Yeah, I'm gonna call him this afternoon on it. I mentioned it to him yesterday, but he didn't get back to me, so I'll continue to talk to him about it. So we can kind of bring that reel it in a little bit to kind of compare apples to apples, so to speak, so.
Right. Yep.
And we can go from there, so.
Okay, good. Any other questions or thoughts?
Both of these seem to be turbine mixing. Is there whatever, I'm guessing it's less efficiency with the sprayers or like an actual air stone aerator?
Yep, this'll just draw it up through the tube and just set it out, bring it
Pull it
out.
onto the surface,
Yep, and it'll just sit there and cycle. And the numbers that from the email I sent yesterday, those numbers were less than a month from them restarting them up in Harmon Lake,
Oh,
which, I mean, that is significant.
Jim, just kind of a follow-up to Roger's question, what is there a threshold where blue-green algae, it benefits? And maybe just a more general question, right now we're hearing from vendors, is there anybody at the, I don't know, Game and Fish, Department of Environmental Quality that limnologists basically, that can say, yeah, you need this versus, yeah, it's nice to have it? I mean, it's a lot of money, and it's definitely a great recreational area, no doubt about that. But if it's just kind of a nicety, that becomes a little different discussion, whether it's really beneficial. And so I was just wondering if there's, I'm thinking of, I can't forget his name, but he used to be at the health department, Mike,
Okay.
limnologist.
Is it Mike Sauer?
Yes, Mike Sauer.
Who is it?
Well,
Well, he's not
he's
there.
since retired, but.
Okay. Oh, okay. I can look into that for you, Dennis.
I don't know.
back to you on that.
I would be interested to hear their opinion.
And I would, excuse me, I think there'd be an answer from the environmentalist, or water quality people. They would have one answer, then the fisheries would probably have another answer. So if if one of the higher recreational goals was an increased fishery, well, that may play into that. If fishing is still just a byproduct, then yeah, that would play into the decision too, I think.
Yeah, I think aesthetically too, Roger, and everything too. It's people at Harmon Lake are telling Jamie that it looks way better, a lot clearer. You can see farther down and
Sure.
everything as well.
Sure.
So, and I just think that just kind of snowballs into just getting better and better and better. So.
And I think they have fishing prioritized a little more on McDowell
Yeah.
than,
Yep, they
I
have a
mean,
lot more
on,
species. Harmon.
yeah,
Harmon.
Harmon, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm guessing that was a function of McDowell's availability of species was the water quality. So if water quality changed, Game and Fish might change some of their actions too.
Right.
Yeah, because right now I think they stock trout and some
And
bass and some
bluegill,
bluegill in
yep.
there,
Yep.
if I'm not mistaken. Yep.
Okay, well, good discussion. Any other questions this morning? Dave, is there any updates from Parks and Rec this morning? Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Leinenberger and managers. Just on your topic, I may have a name, I don't want to mention it,
Yeah.
but I can get it to you. Might be a person of contact that could help
Okay.
you out with that
Maybe
water
get that
quality
checked.
question.
Okay.
I just don't want to say it in case I'm wrong, so then people are calling him constantly, and
Yep.
it's not the right person, so. But I'll get you that information. As far as the reservoir and recreation aspects, pretty busy last weekend, as you might guess. In fact, we probably covered rentals for the entire month of June in 2 days. In July for the 4th of July, pretty darn close. June wasn't the greatest, as you might remember, as far as recreation activities. So if it was nice out, it was way too windy to be out on the water out there, or it was raining or cloudy or cold. So June wasn't that great, but we're hoping July rebounds and we have a good month of July and August and the rest of the year. So, but otherwise, things have been going well out there. Speaking of water quality, there was no blue-green algae for the triathlon, so
Good.
that's a good thing.
Yeah,
The frequent rains in June, that kind of keeps that water quality good, so we were good there.
good.
Yep.
Do you want to discuss the budget items at all that we talked about?
If you'd like to, yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
So if you remember our discussion earlier this year, Park District sets our budget really early. And we had preliminary planned for, aside from the general management of the property, the 2 improvement projects that we had preliminarily put in our budget was that parking lot 1, which is the boat ramp area and the maintenance area of that parking lot, as well as the replacement of the bathroom, the north bathroom area. So I know, as we discussed, we can always start high, and if it doesn't work, we can cut one out. I'm waiting to hear back from you to see how your discussions went with Burleigh County Commission, to see if those stayed in or if we have to remove one, or are we still okay with where we're at?
Yeah, and as we talked, we did put in both of those items into our 2027 budget request. I have not heard anything, and maybe I'll look at Commissioner Woodcock's, but we did not participate in the hearings. We weren't requested to. I have not heard anything, which I typically take as good news. And, our budget, our total budget went in less than what we requested last year, so I think that's probably would be viewed favorably. So I don't anticipate it being cut.
Okay.
Should
All
be
right.
good.
We'll continue with it in our budget then, unless we hear, I mean, if it can't be done, then we'll have to adjust, so.
Okay.
But
And then Manager Mitchell and I were visiting yesterday a little bit too about maybe making sure we get back to that CIP and just kind of plan out what maybe like 28 and 29 are kind of looking like, and see what kind of prioritize a little
Yep.
bit.
I can, assuming that we're
Moving
going
forward
forward
with
with what we have planned for 27,
An
we
update.
can talk about that next month if you'd like.
Okay,
Yeah.
Good.
Not a problem.
Cool.
all right. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're wrapping up with McDowell Dam this morning. Thanks, everybody. We can move on to item 6 this morning, the South Bismarck Flood Control Project. So we got a couple of special guests here this morning, so they've introduced themselves. And
Hi, good morning, Chair Landenberger, members or managers. Thank you for having us. My name is Gabe Schell. I'm the city engineer for the city of Bismarck, and with me is Scott Schneider, our consulting firm with Apex Engineering. We're here to talk about our South Bismarck Flood Control Project. Scott will be doing most of the talking. I will be smiling in the background and nodding and or shaking my head if I disagree with anything Scott says, but I don't think that'll happen. Our main goal here is to inform you on the project, what we're attempting to do, the benefits that it provides, but then ultimately looking for a letter of support from the Water Resource District, which will aid us in our water development permit that we're applying for through the state. So I guess without further ado, I'll turn it over to Scott here, and he'll walk us through the project.
There we go. You guys see that okay?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, Gabe. As Gabe said, my name is Scott Schneider. It's good to be with you, Chairman Landenberger and water managers. As Gabe said, I'm the project manager for our team on the South Bismarck Flood Control Project. And we're here to talk about the project, give you an overview, and then ultimately talk about a letter of support from this board for our permitting process through the Department of Water Resources construction permitting. So I'm just going to step through some slides here today, and this isn't going to work great. There we go. All right, so a little background on the project. Why this project was developed and started was the change in the floodplain map back in 2024. The area in red is what changed in South Bismarck. Bismarck knew that this was coming, so the city was proactive and started looking into alternatives to possibly mitigate this change in risk on the floodplain map. So we were engaged by the city to start looking at alternatives and ultimately submit for FEMA BRIC and FMA grants. And in that process, we developed several alternatives. The alternative you see on the screen here was focused primarily on a detention pond on the airport property, along with controlling that backwater through South Washington Street. As you guys all know, that's where the area of concern is at. So we had a control structure pump station at South Washington Street on the screen there. And then the detention pond over on the airport property and a diversion piping system to get the water there. And the detention pond focus was to reduce the size of the pumping station from a water resources perspective. That grant application actually led to a successful FMA grant to the city in $50 million with reduced flood risk as the primary goal. It had a federal benefit cost ratio very high, It had a lot of positives for this area, so that's primarily the reason it was selected. So that kind of launched us into further development of alternatives. And as part of that process, though, we, in the grant application, always showed this as our pre-project versus post, with those yellow structures on the left being removed from the post-project on the right. There's about 900 structures here impacted by this floodplain change in this area. So a significant change, and then post-project, though, we're seeing a large benefit on the proposed floodplain map change in this area. So as we further developed the project, though, started meeting with the airport, some land use concerns, ultimately, mainly with bird strikes, led us to a pivot on using that airport property to the alternative known as the Bismarck Expressway alternative. There was a new flood diversion piping system to a new outlet into the river. And that, of course, had the same control structure pump station down at South Washington Street, but now we had a new one into our new outfall into the Missouri River along Expressway. And it also had that detention pond concept to reduce pumping. As part of that analysis, we worked with Parks and Rec and the Clem Kelly complex user groups, and some challenges there. So we pivoted and reduced the pump station, or eliminated the pond, increased pumping, increased pipe sizes to try and mitigate those concerns in Clem Kelly there. Some other concerns on this alternative, though, were right-of-way impacts along Kirkwood Mall and I-84. We were trying to move out of the expressway with this large diversion piping system that was going to have significant right-of-way or traffic impacts in expressway. So we had some challenges there, but our biggest challenge probably in the expressway alternative was the cost. There were some cost share challenges at the Department of Water Resources related to flood control and what we were trying to do with the project. So we pivoted again, and we are focused now just on the ditch system down in this area with the same control structure concept at South Washington Street. But our detention pond now is using all of the space available to the city of Bismarck along the drainage ditch. So we're expanding that drainage ditch or widening it out as much as we can with maintaining the recreational feature of the trail on the north side, just moving that as north as far as we can. And then the same control structure concept at South Washington Street. We also have 2 new crossings at South 3rd Street and East Walker Avenue to cross that new detention pond area that limits the stages on that channel that help us in the reflecting of the floodplain map upstream within this area. That cost in our 30% design that we've advanced and submitted back in March is just under $100 million total for the project, and we still have that benefit cost at the federal level. So I mentioned the pump station at South Washington Street. This was the concept that was in the 30% design level. We're just pumping it around the control structure there at South Washington Street. But as part of this process, though, we're still focused on the main goal of the project, pre versus post. This was out of the 30%. We changed the color to blue for the original inundation, and then red for post-project inundation within the floodplain area there, within the area of concern. So that's still being met with the changed alternative. But as we progress from 30 now to 60% and then on to 90 this fall, we're starting to work on the permitting process of this project. And one of those permits is the construction permit from the state, from the North Dakota Department of Water Resources. And their new guidelines or their new permitting process allows water boards a 45-day review period. And if we can come to the permit application with a letter of support from this board, then we can eliminate that 45 days, and it helps streamline our permitting process. So that's what we're here today, is to present the project. We met with Mr. Gunch already and talked about this with him, and then his suggestion was to come to the board, give the same presentation, and then ask for that letter of support. And then if there's more technical questions that he has to be involved in, we definitely can answer those as well. But that's what we're here today to talk about. We have looked at this from two permitting perspectives. We did ask DWR with how they were going to permit this. Their look at this is mainly from the Missouri River, because we're talking about Missouri River. That's their permitting authority. And so we wrote a memo. We've already done that in our 30%, where we're just looking at the Missouri River. So we're basically, does this flood control project or pump station and closure structure have any impact on the Missouri River floodplain? And the answer is no, because we're pumping 200 CFS against a floodplain of well over 100,000 CFS. So we've written a memo on that, so that kind of answers that question, that there's really no impact to the Missouri River. The other, oh, I'm going the wrong way. How does that happen? But we did take a look at this, though, from the local perspective, knowing that Burleigh County has Tavis Road flood control structure. That's the flood annex plan for the county. The city is also involved in that plan, and from a flood protection perspective. So we looked. So how do we step back and how do we analyze this apples to apples? We've got a control structure up there. We've got all this backwater area that's most of the time not being impacted by the project, but we're still improving the channel. Does that have impact? So we did a coincident frequency analysis of the two project locations, our project versus the backwater area of Tavis Road, and we broke all of the Missouri River stages into a percentage of time exceedance graph there on the right, and broke those into different basically intervals or buckets to compare to, where we're comparing an open water project to various stages of coincident frequency, as well as when Tavis Road is being operated, what does our project do to that? And the results on the screen here that matter are these three on the bottom here. So the 1% difference is about 0.24 feet. The 4% is about just under 0.2, and then the 1% or the 10% is just under a tenth of impact. And so what does that mean? We, on the graph or on a map, we actually did inundation mapping of what that means in this backwater area. It's pretty hard to see at the large scale. We have a couple of graphs I can zoom in on here a little bit, but this is the red is the change condition. This would be the 4%, and the 1% is basically the same. You just really can't see a lot of impact back in the area. Zooming in though, down like on the Mills Avenue crossing, on the left there, a little bit of red there shows up, and then down at Tavis Road, these are the 1% graphs. So these are in our 30% design report, in our drainage analysis memo in more detail if this board would like to review that or have or direct Mr. Gunch to do that. But very minimal impact. So yeah, I guess that's what I wanted to present today in seeking that letter of support for the City of Bismarck's project, and happy to try and answer any questions for you folks today.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Any questions for Scott or Gabe? One question I have, or go ahead, Dennis.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask, regarding this letter of support, yeah, we'll definitely look at writing that. If we have comments or questions, should we include that in that same letter, or should that be independent or separate?
I think those could be independent,
Okay,
Mr.
that's
Chairman,
kinda what I
and
was
then we
thinking,
could
but-
address those
Okay.
with you or the board,
Yep.
and then hopefully those will be addressed in your letter, or before you write your letter of support.
Okay.
And I guess quick time frame, I didn't mention time frame. We're in the 60% design right now, hoping to submit for permits in August and going into the fall. So that's our timeline. So that's why we're here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Chairman, that was going to be one of my questions. In our packet, it suggested it might be at 30% design level, but you're beyond that.
Sure.
And maybe just an added comment is that the state typically likes to see pretty 90% plus.
Yeah, we've had that
levels.
conversation. So they've have told us that we're at risk, if we change between 90 and 100. So we know that, definitely know that, Manager Reap. We are up against a little bit of a time crunch on the FEMA money. Those FEMA grants have a three-year time limit, and so that first 3 years ends the middle of next summer. We had two phases of the funding when we applied. Phase one is the design phase and the permitting phase here, and then phase two is actually construction. So that's really our process to try and move this forward, in a timely manner to start this process.
Yeah, I feel your pain if you're having any, Scott.
I'll let Gabe answer that one.
One other question, is there, I don't know, perception reality, you're going to have a wider channel, probably some more storage in that channel. Any discussions on mosquito control, that type of stuff yet, or?
Manager Reap, we haven't talked about that, I guess, from a local perspective, unless you've heard anything, Gabe. But, the channel cross-section, I guess I should have presented that. The channel cross-section is going to maintain The bottom's going to be the same right now. And then we're building a bench up and over. So, normal operation, normal times of the year when it's not raining, it's going to be the same bottom width. And we really did that from the FEA perspective. So we're not changing wetlands. We're not changing the bottom of the channel. We're building a bench in there. So rain events, it's going to be wider, but then it goes away.
Thanks.
Makes sense.
So it'll basically go to the north. It'll go to the north, but the south line will hold.
That's correct. The south line's going to hold, yeah. Except that the structures where we just have to do some
Right,
widening
right,
there
right.
to get through there. Yeah.
Regarding Tavis Road, I don't know, have you interacted with, I assume, engaged with Casey and Dan kind of regarding that whole process?
We did, Mr. Chairman. I failed to mention we met with Mr. Gunch. We also had Burleigh County there. Casey and Dan were both there, and didn't have any concerns at that meeting. So
Okay. Good. Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I guess a comment, I would say certainly wholeheartedly support a letter of support for this, and sometimes project sponsors will draft language for the board to adopt and finalize, so I don't know if that's an option.
yeah, sure. I think that's definitely something we can work with Gabe on and help with. Yep.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. I guess as a consensus of the board, looking
Yes.
at the letter
Concur.
of support. Okay.
I wouldn't mind seeing this presentation if you're able to share it. I don't think that we need to review it. I guess I would recommend we don't have to review it, but I would certainly appreciate seeing the presentation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I did provide it to Mr. Gunch, but I'll
Yeah, it's, some of the slides are in the pack, but not all of them.
No.
They look
okay.
like-
Maybe
yeah,
maybe trim.
it's
I'll
kind of
get
a
it.
condensed version. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Not
Okay.
a problem.
Very good. Well, thanks for the presentation.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you for your
Yeah.
time this morning.
Yep. Okay, yeah, we'll look at getting that written and submitted, so. And then,
Mr. Chairman,
yeah,
I
go
have
ahead.
one comment.
Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, one discussion we had during the meeting with the county, we have been in the process of developing, and I almost had it ready for this meeting, but didn't quite get there, was the issue of the changing BFE with future mapping due to the Hawaii Delta Formation. So there will be a slight change in the BFE. It could go up as much as a foot in some areas over the next 15 to 20 years. It's kind of a projection based on the, if you want to call it the recovery of the scour. The scour is going to disappear. The new mapping with the new hydrology actually lowered the BFE in some cases, and that is going to return. I've discussed this with Apex and Gabe as well. The numbers, we can provide those separately as a technical memo to them. It wouldn't necessarily have to be part of the letter. Also understand, talking from the design perspective, that they've already accommodated an increase associated with the pump system and their freeboards. So I believe it's already covered. It's just a matter of having that documentation in hand in case there's questions down the road.
Okay,
But we can send that independently as a memo to them and probably have it to them within the next couple weeks.
okay, sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick follow-up question. It's maybe in here, but when do you anticipate submitting to the state, roughly?
In August was our goal
Okay.
for
All right.
for permitting application. Yep.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. Okay, we can move on to item 7 this morning, financial reports. Manager Reap.
Mr. Chairman, board members, on page, starting on page 58 is the balance sheet. I'll just go through some of the details from the month of June, as per usual. Our checking savings account, checking account, we started out with $2,188,845.29. We paid bills in the amount of $47,910.11. Per our action at the June meeting, we did transfer $1.5 million from our checking account into Brevera Wealth. We did have income of just slightly under $8,000, which is made up of real estate tax and state aid and a very small special assessment collection and a small interest amount. Ultimately, we ended the balance in checking with $656,662.58. Our Brevera Wealth balance is $4,026,871.65. Total current assets are $5,397,220.70. We did, you did see an increase in our interest in Prevera Wealth. That was a net interest of about $9,300 for the month of June. So, and I think that will go up a little bit since we'll have a full month of July based on that current interest rate, which is, by the way, it did go up slightly this last cycle. It's at 3.62 gross and 3.37 effective. So with that, I guess I would move for approval of the balance sheet as presented in your agenda book.
I'll move to approve, or I'll second his
Second,
motion.
okay, got a motion by Manager Reap and a second by Manager Smith to approve this month's balance sheet. Any questions? Wendy, take roll call, please.
Manager Maker,
Yes.
Manager Mitchell,
Yes.
Manager Reap,
Yes.
Manager Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Landenberger.
Yes, motion passes.
Moving on to starting on page 61 is the profit and loss sheets. And so everything looks to be in order. I guess just one note is that our real estate tax is actually I don't know if it's out of the normal, but it's about 86% for the year. I would suggest that usually our last month in collection of real estate tax was pretty small. So I'm not sure if we're going to hit 100% of our real estate tax collections for the year. We're currently at about 86%.
You
But-
know why that would happen, Dennis? Did we just kind of guess what that was? Or is it?
I think it's just overall collections in the county level. We're allocated a certain amount of, I think, based on mills, and if they don't collect as much as they anticipate, we don't collect as much as we anticipate. That would be my thought
Okay.
process there. But with that, everything looks in order. I would move for approval of the profit and loss statement as presented.
Okay.
Second.
Got a motion by Manager Reap and a second by Manager Mitchell to approve this month's profit and loss statement. Any questions? Hearing none, Wendy, take roll call, please.
Manager Maker,
Yes.
Manager Mitchell,
Yes.
Manager Reap,
Yes.
Manager Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Landenberger.
Yes, motion passes. Yeah, I was kind of looking at that, Dennis, kind of comparing, things we're about halfway through the year now, kind of to budget, and it seems like we're under on quite a few items, so it's,
We are
That's
under
good.
on income, but also on expenses too. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
okay. All right, any other questions or comments regarding the financial reports? Okay, thank you. We can move on to item 8 this morning, drainage permits and complaints and issues. First one up, Keelboat Park. I don't know, Michael or Travis, any updates on that one?
I don't have anything myself, but I would defer to Michael to see if he's able to give any input on that one for the Keelboat Park one to start off with.
Yeah, I don't have any update at this point. There's still a document that I'm trying to find, and as soon as I find that, I can get back to DWR on that issue. So,
Okay. How about Hawk Tree? Oh, here comes,
Yeah, for me, that'd be the same. I don't have anything for Hawk Tree.
okay. Morning, Casey.
Morning. For Hawk Tree, they have all the comments. The consultant for the HOA, they're still working upon it. We're just waiting for them to resubmit once they've addressed the comments. Then
Okay.
we'll review it again and go from there.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, moving on to numbers C, or letter C there, Long Lake Refuge update.
yeah, Mr. Chairman, a couple things on that one. Obviously, the Burleigh County has sent their letter to Jared. He was very grateful and appreciative that that was sent. I've had some conversation or email traffic back and forth with the Kidder County folks. Jared responded to that, and he said he's working with them independently on their letter, but he has received direction from headquarters to go ahead and start looking into the issues. So that's a positive sign from that process.
Okay,
I have not been involved with what Kidder County is asking or what their scenario is, but I'm hoping that there'll be some more coordination as the mitigation process is undertaken. So,
okay. So Michael, moving forward, are you planning just kind of staying in touch with Mr. Newton?
Yes, at this
Okay.
point in time, he's starting to look into things. I told him that we're available for suggestions. I think Roger and I had a number of ideas that he could potentially implement, but they need to have their discussion internally first, and then as soon as they're willing to discuss again, we can set up another meeting.
Okay. All right. Any questions regarding Long Lake this morning? Okay, thanks, Michael.
You bet.
Yeah, I guess I'd added Hogue Island activity, but I see that's in here now under this Ponderosa Riverside Village. I was thinking that was something separate, but that is the same. So, yeah, we can move on to item D here. So, yeah, apparently there was some activity at a property, kind of, if you guys know where that smaller boat ramp is near Hogue Island. I think they call it the Hogue Island boat ramp, don't they? And I guess somebody was kind of playing in the sandbox there with some equipment, and it has garnered a lot of attention here the last couple of weeks. So there's been some emails, some information that's being shared, photographs, drone photos. Travis, I think you visited the site. Definitely seems like there could potentially be some violations there going on. Being it's the Missouri River, there's a lot of agencies involved when you start thinking about the state and the feds and kind of the county and, even Mitch's role in this and then us. So one suggestion that was thrown out there by our attorney Bliss was maybe trying to organize a meeting with a lot of the entities involved. And so we'll be looking to do that here in the coming weeks, just to kind of get folks in the same room and kind of discuss what the next steps are. I do know DWR is talking about cease and desist letter, and so just trying to figure out what our role could be in this. And so certainly it's like I said, a lot of different players involved, a lot of different folks, a lot of different agencies. So I don't know, Travis or Michael, if there's some more specifics you want to give as far as kind of what you're seeing or what you maybe might be the next steps. But
I'll touch base on a number of things. Obviously, the work that was done has violated it. Put it this way, the work that's been done has not been permitted, and there's a number of regulatory violations. First of all, the work that was done on sovereign land, so therefore DWR is involved. They're looking at their cease and desist. I don't know if they've formally sent that yet. But the excavation was done in sovereign land, and it was also done within the regulatory floodway. Mitch has already sent out his notice that something needs to be done relative to permitting and evaluating the work that was done to see if it had, violated the either the BFE and or the floodway requirements. On the other side of the equation, with the earthen levee that is north of that, which is just on the south side of the Burnt Creek outfall to the Missouri. The Section 408 applies, where, from a Corps of Engineers standpoint, have they impacted that structure, to what extent have they impacted that structure, and whether or not there's risks associated with that. From what I've seen initially, I'd say the possibility is there. Don't know the specifics, which is kind of the meeting, or the purpose for the meeting, to get everybody and have a one-on-one discussion. I think the most important part is the oversight of who's doing what, because you got three entities that have potential jurisdictions that, from a compliance perspective, Attorney Bliss and I have talked about the water resource district's step in this. Number one, you're 50% responsible for the maintenance of that jetty. If there's risk to that jetty, then you have risks, obviously. The easement that exists out there for access to that jetty, it does not appear as though there was a lot of work done within that easement. It's not a matter of necessarily work within that easement, but the district is responsible for that easement to make sure you have maintenance or access to maintain the structure itself. So, in short, it basically was somebody going out there with a blatant violation and doing anything they wanted to, apparently without permits. It is a very sizable area, in our opinion, based on the aerial views that DWR has presented. So I think that meeting is prudent. We should set up and call that and get everybody into into the office and discuss, who's actually doing what and where, so it's a coordinated effort rather than three agencies doing things independent of one another, given the extent of the violation.
Yeah, based on kind of what I'm seeing, it's most of it just excavation of sand in that area and depositing it in various areas. So you can imagine the violations that could be happening there. So we didn't see anything as far as adding additional rock or anything of that nature at this point. So, yeah.
Mr. Chair,
morning,
we did send out notices. The difficulty is they don't live here. They're in Scottsdale. And so we did send 2 notices by registration, by registered mail. I haven't heard anything back. So I'm going to go out and post a stop work on site, and hopefully we'll get some response. We haven't heard anything from anybody yet.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Thanks.
Is the equipment still there, or
yeah.
Yeah.
What was their purpose?
Yeah.
I'm guessing dredging for access?
It's kind of what it seemed
For
like.
boat
Maybe,
access?
yeah. There's a little bay kind of in there. If you're familiar, wish we had some photos, but it's a pretty sizable structure that we have there. That revetment that comes off of that channel.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the larger ones we have, honestly.
Yeah. Looked like to me like he was pushing dirt out to that jetty.
Yeah, and he was just
He's
trying to
trying
open
to-
that up, I think, to get some access maybe to his property, but
Yeah.
yeah, or the contractor was. He wasn't there, I don't think personally, but.
Yeah, I actually drove by that site this morning, and right now he has installed his dock, and he has his pontoon boat
Okay,
in the
so-
water, and a couple of jet skis as well next to that. So he excavating the sediment that is accumulated behind that jetty so that he can have access to the river and put his dock in, is what he was doing by the looks of it. And so now I didn't see any equipment there. Maybe it was out around the corner over the hill. I couldn't quite see it because obviously I didn't walk out there, but just what I could see from the road, I didn't see any equipment over there. There wasn't any current activity, but now his dock has been installed along with his boat and a couple of watercraft, and that appears to be what his intent was, is so that he could place those in the water.
And if you go back, one of the things I'll add from a historic perspective, if you go back to the older aerial photos, that area that he excavated has not been open for, quite a period of time. So it's actually excavation of an older existing sandbar. And obviously with the Corps of Engineers and other things, there's a number of rule book violations. I'm not sure on the enforcement options that exist for them. I guess that's one of the things that would have to be discussed.
Well, Mr. Chairman, it certainly seems like we're kind of the little brother here in the big process, right? So we don't have a lot of teeth in our abilities to enforce or regulate, but we certainly can be a interested observer to the Corps and state process.
Yep. That's kind of
Correct.
And then, Roger, you're Missouri River, right, as far as
I think so.
yeah. So then maybe we'll have you included as well.
Sure.
Because it's your portfolio, and then probably see if we can set that meeting up here in the next week or two. Okay.
And I will send out a request. I've already sent emails and included everybody about a potential meeting, but now I'll actually request that meeting of the agencies to see if we can put that together next week.
Okay. Thank you, Michael.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions on that? Okay, hearing any, we can move on to projects this morning. Item 10, as far as Hogue Island stabilization, I don't know, Travis or Michael, if there's any updates regarding where we're at with some of those projects.
James and managers here, I have been in contact with Braun Intertech regarding that, and now that Kate is back in the office, she can get going on the analysis of that site, and right now Braun has been reviewing that. I believe they've done some soils borings on there. I believe we have additional ones that have occurred there. I haven't seen it, or I haven't looked up there myself in the last couple of weeks, but they are doing an evaluation of the soils underneath there, with sampling and soil typing, and then also reviewing the topographic information that we've collected along with the bathymetry out in the water, and we've stitched that together to create a complete surface for that whole upper bank area, and then also below and under the water to see what the shape is and try to evaluate what might be happening there. And so currently that is still being evaluated by Braun, And we're looking for them to provide us with a report and a recommendation for how to remedy that. So that is in process at the moment.
Okay, any questions for Travis? That's on the Chider?
Correct, that's the
property?
Dave Scheider property.
What, have you been out to the site lately? Have you seen any change, I guess, since?
I think the last time I was out there, at this point, that's probably been about 2 or 3 weeks ago now, but nothing major, nothing dramatic, maybe just a little bit of additional settlement. It's hard to gauge because previously when we first went out there, the grass was waist high almost, and just a lot of vegetative growth kind of covering up. But there are definite cracks in the ground, and you can see, and it's hard to judge whether those cracks have widened since they were first noticed and evaluated. But it does appear that things that might still be kind of settling very slowly. But like I said, there has not been any dramatic movements on there or any major failures occurring there just yet, and. It just seems to be a very slow settlement and some sides. There might be some fines or some material migrating out underneath that and working its way out through the riprap. The riprap, the belt on the riverside is still intact and all still doing its
that's all
job there.
still-
So yeah, we haven't had anything open up on that riverside. No, like I said, no major failures or anything. So just keeping an eye on that. I've tried to keep in touch with Dave Scheider as well, keep him up to date on the process as we work through this. And he just called me here a few days ago asking about status, and I told him the same thing, is that Braun is currently evaluating that and doing a pretty thorough investigation, I guess, and analysis of what could be occurring there to try to come up with the best recommendation. And we've discussed a couple of options internally, just somewhat loosely, but we'll defer to the geotechnical guys for that.
Okay. Any questions for Travis on that one? Okay, how about the other property? Is there any updates on that one?
The Roger Jonas property, I have been out there. I met with him on site here again a couple of weeks ago and took a look at it, took some additional photos, and also looked at one spot just a little bit downstream from his place too, where there is a current revetment there that appears to have maybe a little bit of erosion happening on the upstream end of it, and I think that's something that we want to look at potentially addressing so that we don't have any erosion get behind that rock armoring on the bank there and compromise that, because if it starts eroding behind that. So again, nothing dramatic happening there, but it's definitely degrading, so it's something we want to keep an eye on and look at potentially doing something. Or if we make a project at the Scheider property, then this would be a good tie-in to kind of work on both of those jointly as kind of a combined project. That way we can utilize the mobilization and such to get the contract to hit both sites at the same time when we do make a project go.
Yep, that makes sense.
So, and I've taken, like I said, I've taken some photos on those. If anybody is interested in seeing those, I can show you those as well, and then you can we can take a look at potentially doing some rough estimates of some quantities on some stuff there, and then we're going to have to look into the permitting that would be needed for those as well.
A question for Travis and Michael. So when we're talking about submitting for a DWR grant for rehab for that property, is that, because we split these costs 50-50 with DWR, right?
Yeah.
That is correct. The DWR, working with Clay, we already have a cost share request in for Chiders.
Yep.
And they would want a second submittal for the Jonas property.
Okay, so
once we get the cost together for Jonas and decide what's happening at Chider, we have to file for a second grant request for Jonas, but we would combine them from a construction standpoint.
okay, so they still consider it a cost share request, even though like they're 50% kind of owners in this. So it seems kind of like an odd process or step to me, but that's fine. That's what they require.
Yeah, we debated that back and forth because, quite honestly, it's by agreement, but they want it to go through their web grants process so they can record it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's still the last one's approved direct. They're approved directly by the director. In other words, they don't have to go through the commission.
Right.
But they want it in the web grants process, so they got everything recorded.
Okay, that does ring a bell now. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. All right, any other questions regarding those projects? Okay, we can move on to Apple Creek Slide. this morning. I don't know, Michael, you got some updates. In your packet on page 80 is the quarterly report that is being submitted for the grant. And it kind of, in there, you'll see some dates, some numbers as far as what the project costs are at and kind of where we're at dollar-wise for the year. We're at about 62%. Total funds expended about 215,000. And then they got a kind of an anticipated completion date of around August 31st of this year.
Correct.
So we got a couple months left. So I don't know, Michael, you want to give any other updates regarding where we're at with that project and what the next
Yeah,
steps might
kind
be?
of the ongoing efforts, and Mr. Chairman, you requested a summary of the costs, and I
Yep.
provided that. That's in your packet.
Yep.
We are on track and within the original estimate, or as amended, based on the additional monitoring. BGC is now in the process of looking at the alternatives, and it appears as though the alternatives may require something on the upper bank, which is actually outside of the anticipated grant or in the anticipated project, but that's just kind of what what's going to come up with. So once we get to that point, there'll be decisions after the recommendations come through as to what the alternatives might be.
Yep.
So,
Okay, thanks, Mike. Yeah, on page 84 of your packet, you'll see kind of that breakdown. And I just asked Michael to kind of put this together so we could kind of see a clear summary of, as we're tracking some of these invoices from Braun and BGC and then from Houston as we're working towards that final product here, hopefully in August. So once we get that, as Michael said, that'll give us some direction to kind of what our next steps could be. Just thinking long-term too, we do have some monitoring sites out there, Michael. I know we talked about at some point getting some updated numbers from Braun as far as what it would take to continue to monitor those sites.
Right. A couple things on that. They will be providing that additional monitoring costs as part of their recommendations in their final summary report. Interesting background. The University of Mary has another area of slide that's independent from this one, where they're currently monitoring what's going on over there. So I think ultimately that monitoring cost may be a recommendation to go back to the University of Mary, depending upon what the mitigation alternative is. But we will have those dollar amounts as part of the overall recommendations for the end of the HMGP grant. The other one that's out there is the Emergency Action Plan. Travis had updated that, put some things together, sent it off to the County Administrator, Mary Sanger. I looked at it again and I thought about some additional items. I've gotten those back to her, so we should be pretty close to getting that wrapped up here, in the next month or so.
Okay. And just a reminder of the board, we kind of had two things we were looking at with this product, right? We kind of want to get an understanding of what is going on and if there is some movement on that lower portion of that and to see, if we could get ahead of if there was something major potentially happening, which we're kind of getting to that point now. That study will be wrapping up here in the next month or two and we'll get some, some direction from that study. And then the second part of that was this emergency action plan. So if something did happen, do we have something in place that we could notify landowners of a potential, blockage of Apple Creek and potential flooding? So I do think we're moving right along as far as what we wanted to accomplish on this. So I think at this point we'll see what next month has from Braun and BGC and Houston, and we'll go from there. So any questions? Okay. Michael, anything else?
Nope, that's all I got on that one.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's it for projects this morning. We can move on to other old business. I don't know, Mitch, if there's any sort of update this morning on CRS. You've probably been focused on a couple other things these last few weeks, but.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have a CAV visit on the 21st and 22nd of this month.
Oh, okay. All right, so maybe next month might have some.
I don't
some
know.
movement. We'll see.
I have no idea what FEMA is going to say. So
Yeah.
it's many questions.
Yeah.
We've more than doubled our floodplain management areas in
Right.
size. And so we didn't review any of that last time. So I don't know what's going to happen.
What they'll say.
Hopefully we'll get some answers though.
Okay, thanks, Mitch.
Yeah.
Any questions for Mitch? No? Okay, good, thank you. Okay, move on to item B. I don't know, Commissioner Woodcox, any updates regarding the Garrison Conservancy District? And
appeal that we made to, I shouldn't say we, but the commission made to pull this permit to get out of Garrison Division. It is in the courts right now. We were waiting on a judge's decision. That has not happened. Apparently on Monday we had and I think one of the other commissioners scheduled a meeting up, almost like a public hearing, and I objected to, what do we need a public hearing for? It's in the courts. They're making the decision. We have no say in it anymore unless we get a negative decision, and we might appeal it to the Supreme Court. But that's down the road, and we're still waiting on that judge's opinion. Now, that meeting was moved from the 6th to the 20th, and I don't know why that was. I think local politics has a lot to do with it. I think the one commissioner that put this on the board is running for re-election, and I think he wants to keep this as a boiling pot, so to speak. And I think the decision's out of our hands. I mean, we're waiting for the court, and we're going to go from there. So there's no real update on it. We'll make the 20th meeting is rescheduled, but I don't know. I asked our chairman on Monday night, I said, what's this all about? And he didn't know anything about it. So it's kind of a one-man political battle. So we'll see how it works out.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. Any questions for Commissioner Woodcox? Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Okay, moving on to new business this morning. Item 12 there, in your packet there on pages 85 and 86 is a temporary water permit, pretty straightforward. If in review of that you have any thoughts or comments, certainly pass those along. And then we can move on to item 13. So additional information can be made available. If you want to review that, there's two plats and stormwater management plans, one for Island Park Estates, the second subdivision, and also the Ridge at Hawk Tree replat. So I don't know, probably Casey, any comments or updates on either of those projects? I don't know if there's anything there significant or not, but we'll see if Casey's got anything for us this morning.
Both of those are pretty straightforward. Sibley Highland Estates is 2 lots being combined into 1 lot for just looking at a larger accessory dwelling unit. Hawk Tree is looking at just cleaning up some of their plat. They have land that's around it that's not in the original plat, and they want to sell some of it off to the other side. So it's just really a cleanup. They're not doing anything. It's just making the land sale cleaner is all.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Say, Casey, but whatever happened to the one on off of River Road? It was kind of a big discussion with this board last summer, but what was that subdivision called that we did a pretty extensive review. We had Houston come in and
1804 Summit Point.
Summit Point, yeah.
Up there. Yeah, they're in process. They've been selling lots. They did contact us. They're getting close to the 30, so they're looking at doing a turn lane, which was part of the agreement. At that point, they had some additional erosion coming down Everest Drive in this, not last night's storm event, but the one before.
Okay.
And they were, well, can we put in another, something to slow it down? And they thought an approach would help. And we were, well, you already designed all of it, so yeah, you can put it in, but even under the full design with all the approaches in, you're still 8.5, 9 feet per second down that ditch. And we said this is going to be a major issue this entire time, and you might need to line it with rock the whole way. So they haven't gotten to that point. They do have rock check dams going down through it to help slow everything down. After it eroded, they did go out, they did repair the ditch and get everything reestablished. So they're doing what they're supposed to do.
Okay. Remember, part of that process was, I think, a DOT permit under the highway there, so that must have all gotten through and approved.
Nope.
It didn't?
No.
Oh.
That is still in process. DWR is looking at it, and they said it's a high-risk dam, which we had brought up because they had shrunk down a culvert size that's in an existing upstream area.
Okay.
And we said, you may create a high-risk dam out of this. So they're still working through that, so the DOT still hasn't approved their part. So they asked if they could reopen Everest Drive and raise Everest Drive, and you will reopen the entire stormwater management plan doing that. So they're looking at options currently.
Okay. All right. Yep. Any questions for Casey? No? Thank you.
Yep, you bet.
Okay, we can move on to item 14 this morning, approval of bills.
Mr. Chairman, board members, I was thinking in new business, there's one thing I maybe didn't get on the agenda, just, and it's new business, old business. Next week is the summer meeting, so
Oh,
the Water
yeah, I
Resource
was gonna bring
District's
that up
meeting
too. Yeah, thank you.
next Wednesday and Thursday up in Washington City. Along with that, there are public comment periods open at the State Department of Water Resources. One is related to the cost share program, and the Water Resource Districts Association has been developing comments and I think represent our interests well. And so just maybe to take that of note that those are open until, I want to say, July 29. Yeah, July 29.
Okay.
And then there is a public hearing next Tuesday morning at the state on navigability of and included in that is Missouri River. Again, I don't know that anything will be of significance out of that discussion from our perspective, but just to take note. So,
Yeah, on that note about Chuck, are you going next week?
I am, yes.
And then Dennis, you'll be there. Anybody else going? Okay, so at this point, we don't need to post it then.
I'm going to join the Missouri River Joint Board meeting virtually.
Oh, virtually, okay. What's that, Wendy?
We don't need to for those.
Yeah, okay, we're good then, okay.
So one question, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, the Missouri River Joint Board meeting is on Thursday morning, 8 a.m. to 9, obviously Mountain Time. And Dennis, on that public meeting for the navigability, is that published, and where is that going to be held?
yeah, it's it is on the website. I just noticed it. It'll be held at the Bank of North Dakota at the DWR offices, 9 o'clock in the morning, July 14th, so next Tuesday.
Okay.
Okay.
So sorry for
No,
hijacking
yep.
the agenda there, but I forgot to add those. Item 14, approval of bills. On page 87 is a summary of the bills, and then the details are on the following pages. You should have gotten an email this morning from Wendy. There is the Parks and Rec got their bills in to us, and so I would say we should consider including that in this month's approval. As you have listed, the total bills are $74,493.52. The addition of the Parks and Rec bill is $32,209.74, which would bring the total to $106,703.26. The math adds up. I guess I would move for approval of the payment of bills in that $106,703.26 amount.
Okay.
No second.
Okay, got a motion by Manager Reap and a second by Manager Smith to approve and pay this month's bills in the amended amount as Mr. Reap presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, Wendy, take a roll call vote, please.
Manager Maggart,
Yes.
Manager Mitchell,
Yes.
Manager Reap,
Yes.
Manager Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Landenberger.
Yes, motion passes. Okay, anything else on that, Dennis? Okay, remaining parts of your packet there from 88 to 113 is just some more details on the billing for this month. Our next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, August 12th at 8 a.m. in this room. Everybody can make that meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll plan for that. And that's all we have on the agenda. So if there's no other business before the board, we are adjourned.